Alright, hello everyone, and welcome to April 1st edition of video game pickups for me. A lot of this, especially the stuff I'm probably going to go through first, was buttressed by the fact I got my tax return. For once, I actually got a good tax return, which means I've been paying too much in taxes, but, like, it's the sort of thing, like, oh, I have this, like, I can do, an order like this or something like that, so, we're going to start with stuff like that, and I'm going to go for cartridges, actual old cartridges, right here. So starting with some Game Boy Advance, I put in a J for You order, which got here like amazingly quick. I said to myself when it got here, like within a week from Japan, like already packed and like shipped and arrived super quickly and super well, like just amazing, like what shipping is like in modern times. But anyway, contained in that package were things like Donkey Kong for the Game Boy, Donkey Kong 94, and I'll actually throw up in here Mario vs. Donkey Kong 1 as well. I have never played any of these, and the remake for Mario vs. Donkey Kong pretty much just came out. What is that? That was actually cable when I got my camera out of the drawer. The Mario vs. Donkey Kong remake just came out, and I pretty much didn't know until people started talking about that what exactly Mario vs. Donkey Kong, especially the first one for the Game Boy Advance, was. And it's really just more Donkey Kong. And it was Ant Dude in particular on YouTube who went through the whole series, including like the digital like spin-offs for the Wii U and stuff for it. Where he was like, oh, I'm including talking about Donkey Kong 94 because it's very similar. It's like making Donkey Kong again with more levels and more interesting stuff. So I'd always wanted to get my hands on this, and this was like, when you factor in shipping costs and everything, this probably cost me like $6 or $7, and this probably $5. So a lot cheaper than getting the remake, even though that was the only thing that really spurred my interest in it. And then we have... So this turned out to be not exactly the game that I thought it was, or not the game that they listed it as. This was supposed to be another New Japan wrestling game for the Game Boy Advance, separate from like Fire Pro, and it is still that, but it's something else where it's like it's got like Power Ranger stuff, like not actual Power Rangers, but like weird Power Rangers looking guys in it. I don't know exactly what it is. I've forgotten the name of it, but it's something New Japan. It is licensed by New Japan. It's still that, but it's not the game that I thought it was or the game that they had listed it as. It's something slightly different that doesn't play just like a regular wrestling game. But it's like $3, so whatever. This one just something to get my hands on for this series because I know there's a lot, and I know that there's a 64 one as well that I have to try and see if it's even remotely playable. But this is Super Robot Wars original generation for the Game Boy Advance. Probably not going to be the easiest game to play, but again, when realistically, like, except for like the big ticket items that I was specifically looking for, and I just like go on J4U, that's literally the name of the site. Don't buy them on eBay because they'll charge you the individual price for the shipping, but then if you get like a big like cart, the shipping is pretty reasonable. It's going to come out to like not even $5 a game on a lot of the stuff that you're not like really on the lookout for. So yeah, Super Robot Wars original generation, cool like tactical game. Even though I'm probably not going to be able to read it. And then when I go and I look for stuff like that, a lot of stuff like this happens, where this is Jurassic Park 3 for the Game Boy Advance, and it's a game that you probably would spend like a couple bucks more than this to get the English version, but at the same time, like, you're already making this cart. It's not going to cost you any more to ship it, especially not with the Game Boy Advance game. And the ROM is probably, if not exactly the same, it's going to be almost entirely in English because it's just the game it is. Even though this is made by Konami, like, if you have to read, it's probably not that difficult or not that like restrictive to do it. So I just like, I would pick that game up like if I saw it for $6 or $7, and it was probably more like $5 here. So that's the type of stuff that I'll like grab, and there's one coming up later that's exactly like that. Actually, this is another one too. This is Pinobee. It's Pinobee Wings of Adventure, I think it's called. I played for the first time in my entire life recently Blinks the Time Sweeper, which even though that's considered like an Xbox like first party, it's actually made by this company Artoon, and they made this game, which they have a PS1 game. I've looked into it a little bit, and they have this GameBoy Advance sequel to it that's supposed to be okay. So I thought that was interesting, like Pinobee, little bee character, not Buck Bumble, but I thought that was kind of cool. And then lastly, for the Game Boy stuff, we have a Power Pros game. This is actually the first 2 Power Pros game in a double pack, so I thought that was really cool. It would be like Power Pro. I forget the exact like Japanese pronunciation, so I'm not gonna try it. But it's 1 and 2. You can see it's at 1 and 2 on there. Then continuing for the Japanese stuff over here. This is the only Genesis game or Mega Drive game that I got out of it, and this is exactly what I'm talking about. So, you see Joe Montana 2 Sports Talk Football, which is not a game that I've gone out of my way to get. It's not a game that I've ever picked up or anything like that, but I was like, oh, you know what? If you saw that for $2, which is basically what this costs, because it's the, like, nobody wants this in Japan, nobody's ordering this from Japan on our website or anything like that. And if you realistically say, like, this costs you $2, would you pick it up? Yes, I would. And, like, I knew exactly what was going to happen. I got this, and I actually put it in my Retron immediately. It loads up as Joe Montana 2, and it's the exact same as the English ROM. There's no difference. There's no language changes, nothing like that. Everything's in English. So, if you ask yourself, would you pay $2 for this if it was the English copy? Yes. Like, of course I picked this up. Of course I threw it in my cart. And then these are just two Famicom games that are just games that I felt like I was overdue to pick up for the NES anyway. Not that I really like buy a lot for NES. This is Raid on Bungeling Bay. It's a Hudson Broderbund release. I'm gonna describe the cover. It's like a little weird, like almost like a skull, but it's like a blue skull. It's a Broderbund game. You'll know from like the bottom half of it being like almost cut off. So they're both kind of shooters, and then you'll know a lot more. This is Twinbee. This is the version I believe that was released over here as Stinger, with a Stinga, and we've got more stuff like that coming up as well. Because the main attraction here, I would say, is in these Super Fam. Oh, you know what? I forgot to grab those 64 games off of there as well. I have two of those. I'll just get up and grab real quick. But yeah, the idea was to get this Parodius Da. It's one of the other 2 Parodius games on the Super Famicom that I didn't already have. I did have Gokujo Parodius. So yeah, great series. Always fun. Love that stuff. And the other one that I was really, really hoping to get, and I basically pulled the trigger on this because they had both of the games that I specifically wanted to go out of my way to get. And this is Jaki Crush. This is the other Naxat pinball game that's not on the TurboGrafx. It's very much like Devil's Crush, but with like a Japanese Oni like motif. It's not as good as Devil's Crush, but it's still great. Deserving of the series for sure. So like these two cost like $25 each, and then everything else that I got, including shipping, costs like $125 like all together. So every single game that I got plus shipping was like $125, and these two cost $50 by themselves. So really, it's not bad. It's something that like, ooh, I should take a look on J4U and see what they've got. This is a cool one. This is Versus Collection from a company called Bottom Up. This came out really, really late. This says 1996 on it. It's just a bunch of, not a bunch, but it's like 3 or 4 like cool looking like multiplayer focused mini games. It's supposed to be kind of a cool concept. And then this is a really interesting one because this is a game that you never see for the Super Nintendo. This is Xardion. It literally is one of the only games you can say that starts with an X that doesn't have like the X-Men in it. Xardion. It's an okay, like, side scroller. It's just one that you never see. And when this costs like $5 and the US copy costs much, much more than that, definitely like, oh, I would pick that up to try it because I probably wouldn't get the chance otherwise. And then lastly, this literally cost me $2. It's just like a ripped label copy of the Fire Emblem Genealogy of the Holy War. Pretty sure. I'm like 90% sure that's the one. Just to have a Fire Emblem, like, always cool. I had to go grab, there's 2 64 games that were in that order. Yeah, right here. You got SimCity 2000. There's actually also a disc drive SimCity release that was just SimCity. It didn't say 2000 on it, but this was a 97 port that only came out in Japan. I think SimCity's huge in Japan, if I understand correctly. So just a cool exclusive that didn't cost much for me to grab. Just like Wave Race 64 Shindou Edition, I actually had purchased the wrong version of this before because I didn't really think I needed to get the regular, just Japanese Wave Race. But the Shindou Edition, that's this and Super Mario 64. Shindou Edition refers to the re-releases that are compatible with the Rumble Pack. This especially would be a cool game with the Rumble Pack, and I just think it's interesting to have those because they have those re-releases. And we'll get on to newer things, disc-based things. Alright. Moving not far off of that. NCAA 2K2 with Drew Brees on the cover for the Dreamcast. Just the fact this was like, along with NHL 2K2, this is becoming like harder to find, so I think I found this for like $11 online. So I figured that was worth grabbing, especially because I just don't have a lot of the college games. I definitely don't like enjoy college or know that much about the college stuff as well, but like just to have it to mix it up, because people sometimes they at this point they go like raving about the college games like when the Madden series is not up to snuff about it. So I don't know, I thought that was worth grabbing. And then this is an interesting one. I definitely wouldn't have bought this if I didn't have just trade-ins to do for it. But at Bazaar Game Trading, I was able to get Gekioh Shooting King. This is actually still a sealed copy. This is what they had and what they had on stock that was interesting for me. But yeah, it's a shoot 'em up. I think the original title is Gekioh in Japan that Natsume ported, or Natsume localized. That's the word I'm looking for. I don't know if I'm gonna open it yet, but it's just one that's been on my list for a long time now. I was like, yeah, you know what, I can pick that one up with my trade-ins. Okay. Just because there's only one of these. We got one PSP game. AWU, Where Gangs of London. I think I paid like $6 or $7 for this online. Just the interesting, when Sony realized that the Getaway was not going to make any more waves, and they could rebrand and make a new game for the PSP, only for the PSP then, to get its own Grand Theft Auto games and kick this game's ass as well. I think it's okay, from what I've heard, but as a Sony, it's not an original IP because it is more or less the Getaway because of the London stuff. But Sony first party title on the PSP that doesn't have any sequels or anything like that. Just an interesting part of that. Like, that's the other reason I own like Kingdom of Paradise. Like, they tried. That's one of the most interesting things about the PSP to me, is the things that Sony did try to compete with. We got, this was, I think, I'll grab this one too, because I think these all came from like GameStop, from like the same. It was impossible to do because they did like 4 for $10 and 4 for $10 under 5 and 4 for $20 under 10 or something like that. 4 for whatever it was. But they were like in store only, and you can only do it through pickup, which means that like you were realistically never going to get that. However, when I was like trying to shop for it, I saw that like most of these games have been marked down anyway, and I was like, would I pay like $6 for Wild at Heart? I was like, yeah, definitely. So I'm just gonna do this order anyway. Just try my luck on getting the cases in, and I think all but one of them came with cases. And of course, tragically, that means I don't even know which one it was. I'd have to check my receipt, because otherwise I just put it off to the side. I was like, yeah, whatever. I tried. Wild at Heart is it's from Humble Games. It's Humble Games published, which is usually a good sign. It's just got really nice art style. Yeah, I think it's a little bit like Cult of the Lamb. If anything, you sort of a little actiony exploration, and amass your little club. It's like the good version, the non chaotic version of that. It also shares its name with a Nick Cage movie that was directed by David Lynch that is enjoyable but horrifying. This is Severed Steel for the PS5. This is a Merge Games published. It actually reminds me a lot of Ghost Runner, which I did not like, but it was because I couldn't get used to the way the camera was and how that translated to your movement and controls and stuff. So I'd give this a try because I think this was none of these games cost me more than $10. You know what? Yeah. I forgot about 2 games that I got on the same sale, but that's fine. They're not that interesting. Them's Fightin' Herds. Now this one was weird because I remember seeing this come out and I was like, oh, a cow and very farm animal pun based fighting game. That's weird and interesting, but I think people seem to enjoy it. Definitely was not going to pay more than $15 for this. I think I still came in under 10. And I was glad that I didn't pay that much for this because I found out that this came out of the creator wanting to make a My Little Pony fighting game. So now that you know that, once you know that, and then you start to look at the art style and everything, you go, oh, okay, yeah, I get that. But it's not creepy or anything. It's just oh, that's what he was doing. I see it now. So worth a try though, because fighting game fans seem to be into it regardless. And then lastly for PS4 at least, Slaycation Paradise. This reminds me just a lot of Dead Nation, one of the games I got for free when Sony had that security leak 12 years ago. But one of their bigger digital games. This is the island getaway or tropical vacation vibes, but it's still just a twin stick shooter type of game like that. Doesn't have to take a lot to be worth playing for a little bit, so I definitely was yeah, I'll grab that. Another Merge Games published title as well. I finally bit the bullet on NHL 24. I'd been wanting to get this anyway because I knew I would because it's got Cale Makar on it. He plays for the Avalanche. They're my second favorite team. I also just I get the hankering to play NHL, and sometimes I fire up a more recent one, or I fire one up that's from 10 years ago, and I still, okay, yeah, but I'm following it enough that I do want to play with the rosters that are current and everything, and see what they're doing with the game. And I will say that for as poorly as EA has done in innovating, and is coasting, the bar for NHL is still really, really high. Just how each game's gameplay comes out. So, this is still a really fun game to play. It's just the reason that it's lame is because they haven't done anything really all that interesting. But I still have chosen to play this over other games that I've been smack in the middle of, and been do I want to play a 25-minute hockey game, or do I want to play, Alone in the Dark, or Ace Attorney for 25 minutes, the same thing. And I'll be yeah, I just feel like doing one game of this right now, no big deal. So, yeah, I think I paid $24 for that, so not bad. And like I said, Alone in the Dark, this is my, so far, unless Silent Hill 2 makes 2024 for its release schedule, this is the only game that I can think of right now that I'm this year I'm going to buy it for the PS5, day one, and I'm going to start playing it immediately because I'm really excited for it. and it's been pretty good. I think above all else, I'm just really happy that this series that I've never gotten into finally has something good to say about it. In like this modern era, like 2007 and 2012, like complete garbage. It got picked for the Game Boy Color online lineup, and everyone was like, "What's up with that?" And I thought it was a cool looking game, but like tough to really like get into it as the Game Boy Color version. I have the Dreamcast version of that same game, The New Nightmare, and I've just never played it. And I never played any of the original trilogy either. I've looked into it a lot. I've appreciated it, but I've never gotten into the series. So this really exciting for me. Complete reimagining of that first game. Like there's very very little similarities in the combat, like combat level design, progression. Most of the plot very very different. The characters are the same, and the theming is the same. But I think it's good. I At this point I'm giving it a 7 out of 10. I'm almost done with it playing it as Edward. And I was really excited to go back and play it as the other one. Can't remember her fucking name. Emily Hartwood. I was gonna go back. I was really excited to go play it a second time like a Resident Evil 2 would, but I've been hearing that like it's not that different. There's a couple different dialogue. The dialogue's a little bit different. You can pick up different collectibles, but ultimately like it's the same levels, the same everything like that. So I'm probably not going to do it, but I am really excited to finish it as Edward. It's just the technical issues. It's lacking a bit of polish because it's THQ Nordic and pieces. So it's been a little bit too glitchy for it to get anything above that. I was ready to give it like an 8 and say, oh, maybe the pacing, maybe the story is a little bit iffy, but yeah, I have high hopes for this series going forward. But yeah, if I did this as a profession, I would have been really excited to review this game, but I'm not doing that right now. So I really wanted to talk about Alone in the Dark because hey, I bought a new release and I'm playing it. And then lastly for PS5, it's Nick All-Star Brawl 2. My friend convinced me to get this because he's been playing the shit out of it. He's very, very good at it, which intimidates me because I'm like, well, I'm not going to play a game with you that, you're really good at, and I'm not good at any games, but yeah, hopefully we'll play online. I'll actually play online a little bit, a video game, and we'll be able to play crossplay because he's on Xbox, but it was like $20 at Best Buy today, so I was like, yeah, that's fine. Whew, and then Switchy. Okay, so these top 3, this is for me to prove a point as well, and I'm gonna put my link in the description of the video for this as well, along with my list of games, because I got these 3 on a 3 for $100 deal from PlayAsia. Most notably, Princess Peach Showtime. Like these just came today. We were waiting on Princess Peach to release, and then they ship it. But yeah, 3 for $100. That's including shipping, everything like that. So Princess Peach Showtime, which I've been really, really excited for actually. Shadows Over Loathing, this is just straight up the English version. It's not even like a Japanese release or anything like that. And this game, Aviary Attorney, Definitive Edition. So this Aviary Attorney, we were looking for something to make it that third game. It's not like there aren't a dozen games on PlayAsia at any given point that I'd be like, oh yeah, I want to get that one. But like, my partner and I were like so into Ace Attorney lately with the Apollo Justice trilogy and everything that we were like, oh my god, a bird parody of Ace Attorney, like we have to get that. So very, very interested to see what that's about. Shadows Over Loathing is a sequel to West of Loathing, which I was enjoying. It's this like very Paper Mario-esque like tongue-in-cheek RPG. West of Loathing had a Western theme to it. This has more of a traditional, like, kind of a medieval theme to it, but definitely not tied to that by any means. So And West of Loathing only got a limited run release. This is getting a regular one from Serenity Forge, who have done a really good job on physicals. And yeah, Princess Peach Showtime. You were able to do pre-orders. Like, PlayAsia's deals always include pre-orders. I'm at the point where I'm just getting all of my first-party titles and pulling the trigger on the pre-orders when they have sales. So, like, a bunch of my Nintendo first-party games now and going forward are just going to be the Japanese copies, which is going to make no real difference. And we have a mix of stuff. We have Air Twister. This is published by Einen. It's not a retro thing. It's just a game, a corridor shooter made by the Space Harrier guy. And it's very similar to Space Harrier, but that's up my alley. We don't have enough games like that. Yeah, so that's exciting. Paleo Pines. I was very skeptical about this because it kept dropping in price. But off of Woot.com, which is the thing you can get if you're a Prime member, you can get free shipping and have it delivered with Prime. This went down to $5, so I really looked into it, and people seem to actually really enjoy it. I don't know why it was kept getting the price slash so much. It's just a cozy little Harvest Moon with dinosaurs. $5. Of course I'm going to buy that. We've got Touch Detective 3 in the complete case file, so this is the Touch Detective trilogy, including 3, which we didn't get before. And 1 and 2.5 we would have had on the DS, which I had both of those games. Hadn't really ever played them, and now they're on the Switch with their third one, so important to get that trilogy there, just like the Ace Attorney and such. Horror Tales: The Wine. Now, I was never sold on this one when this got, like, its pre-order went up from limited run and everything, and I was like, oh yeah, you know what, I don't have to buy every horror game. It wasn't, like, 100% convincing me to, and I was like, yeah, I wouldn't really be interested. Gonna pass on that. And then, because of the way that limited run's distro line has been, this has been on Amazon, and so I was like, okay, I'm gonna keep a watch on that. It's at $35. Maybe one day I'll feel like pulling the trigger at $35 if I hear more about it. And then it ended up being one of the games that actually dropped in price from them, and I ended up paying like $20 for this. So it might not still be the type of horror game that's up my alley, but I only paid $20 for it. And if it's not, I would not have a problem letting go of it. And then lastly, this kept getting delayed, and I was like, not even sure it was ever going to come out on Switch, but this is Skautfold, the Bloody Pack. That's 2 games in this game series, Skautfold, which is published by Red Art. It's actually the first game from Red Art that I've picked up. Even though most of their stuff seems like things I would actually be interested, it was hard for me to pull the trigger on one and like actually check them out for myself. They published They Always Run is the one that I've always seen. And none of the other games that they've published are coming to me, but like they've published a bunch of games, and they're usually in this like modernized indie retro style, which is, you know, like every game at this point, especially ones that I play. But they're supposed to be of a really consistently high quality, so pulled the trigger on this because it's 2 games. It's a Metroidvania about vampires set in late 1800s London, so pretty cool stuff. It's called Skautfold Shrouded Insanity and Skautfold Usurper. And they look cool. There's more Castlevania to play before I actually play these, but definitely some cool looking stuff. Alright, we're finally done there. Yeah, so a lot of games this month, like I said, though. Yeah. We have pre-orders coming in, we got tax return, like, oh yeah, I'll make myself a cart there, stuff like that happening. So, yeah. Thanks for watching. I'll talk to y'all next month. If you're going to stick around, I have shit to do. I want to finish Alone in the Dark today, but I also have to stream Spider-Man 2000 for the N64. I think I've only played Banjo-Tooie and that game for 64 stuff since the last pickups video I did, but that's because it's Banjo-Tooie and Spider-Man. Like, I'm not rushing through those, so yeah, if you want to see that, stick around. It'd be fun. Check out the website, and I'm going to throw my PlayAsia link for the partner program that they have. If you buy something like Aviary Attorney through my link, then I'll get some rewards points for it. It's pretty cool. All right.